Hey guys, what's up? Sizer here, and today this is gonna be hopefully episode number 1 in a series I'm planning to release on this channel, which called Why Do You Main This Character? I'm gonna start the series off with talking about why do I main Ark. Now, I started playing Ark when I came back to MapleStory after a very long break of couple of years, after seeing my friend play MapleStory and getting hooked on it immediately again. With a lot of helps and a lot of resources from my friend, I got to where I am, level 243 Ark. Now let's talk about the class itself. The class itself have a couple of very unique features because this class is actually a combo class with combo class and a little bit of support sprinkled on top. Now let's go through the skills that are mainly used as an Ark main. Now your main attacking skill in Flora mode is going to be basic charge drive. Now this is your main attacking skills. As you can see, it just does a little animation and attack monsters up to 3 times. And let me show you the skill in action as you go along and attack monsters. You're gonna go in, you're gonna attack the monster real quick, and you're gonna see 3 attacks. Now the bullets that you just see are actually from Impending Death. Impending Death is your toggle skill. You can turn it on and off with a press of a button. Now I do recommend turning it on immediately as you go into the game. There is no reason the skill should be off. It should be on at all time. When you stop attacking a boss, the skill should be not attacking the boss for you. The bullets are only created when you're actually actively attacking the boss yourself. Now moving forward with the skills, we have ourselves Ominous Nightmare. Now, Ominous Nightmare gonna be your main skill when transformed into Spectra mode, but can be used in Flow mode as well. Now, the skill animation look as such when used in Flora mode. Now, the extra slash that you saw is actually a 5th job skill that is called Devious Nightmare. Devious Nightmare activate every couple of hits or every couple of seconds to add an extra attack to your basic attack over here. This skill does a lot of hits and a lot of damage and will proc every now and then, regardless of how much attacking and which skills you are using. It's just on a cooldown, and once the cooldown is over, the skill gonna reactivate himself. Now the unique feature of Ark that you don't have many active buffs. The only active buffs you're having are Hero of the Flora and your Weapon Booster, which is not passive at the moment. Your active skills are Scarlet Charge Drive, Abyssal Charge Drive, Gust Charge Drive. Now, those skills will present themselves as buff along the way. Now, Charlotte Scout Drive is your drive. Basically, your horizontal movement, you use it as such, and it attacks the enemy and provides some extra burn damage. As you can see, it's provided me with a buff. Same with Abyssal Charge Drive. You activate the skill and then you hit enemies and you get the buff. The buff will not apply if you don't hit enemies. If you're just gonna do it on the air, the buff will not apply. And the same for Gust. It's a downward skill that really combo well with Unstoppable Impulse. You can do one Unstoppable Impulse, Gust Charge into another Unstoppable Impulse. Let me show you how it works. 1, 2, 3. And you need to be quick. As you saw the first time around, I wasn't quick enough and the buff did not apply. And as you can see now, the buff does apply because I did hit monsters. So let's talk about the buff that those skills give. The first one we're going to talk about is Scarlet Charge Drive. Scarlet Charge Drive gives you attack power plus 30 and crit rate plus 20% when the buff is active for 60 seconds. All those skills going to give you 60-second buffs, so that's the only time we're going to talk about how much the duration is. Now, I'm not gonna say you should rely on the crit rate increase from the skill. I would recommend, from the bottom of my heart, to have 100% crit without this buff active. If you don't have a choice, fine, but for the most part, please try to have it without this particular skill on. And the attack power is what you should aim for when doing normal grinding and bossing as well. The Abyssal Charge Drive is your main bossing increasing damage skill. It gives you damage plus 20%, boss damage plus 30, and ignore defense plus 20%, which is huge amount of boss damage from a skill that you can use every couple of seconds and provide the buff for 60 seconds. And Gust Charge Drive provide you with attack speed plus 1 and avoidability plus 25%. Now, in a party, you're probably saying, so you're only buffing yourself. This is kind of selfish. Not true. When using Charge Spell Amplifier, you actually transfer those buffs to your guildmate for 60 seconds and allow your effects to basically last a little bit longer. So basically speaking, before you start a boss, you need to do the following. Go in and hit those skills in order. Do 1, 2, and then go ahead and use 1, 2, 3, and go use the skill and transfer the buffs to your party. As you see, I did whiff a couple of the hits with the skills, so the only one who's actually active is the Abyssal buff. But with bosses, it's going to be a little bit more consistent to hit the boss as long as you're not attacking when they're actually in an iframe. Moving forward, now Unstoppable Impulse, as you saw, is your vertical movement. This skill can be comboed with Gust Charge to create some really nice movement. 1, 2, 3. Now this skill is very useful to travel around map when training, and your main training gonna be in floor mode. If you need to use your Spectral mode for training, you may need to consider downgrading the map or managing your transformation bar a little bit smarter. But for me, I like the fact that I can do normal monsters in floor mode, and when bossing, change into my Spectral mode and do the most damage there. Moving forward, now the bind that you have is Blissful Restraint. Now the unique thing about this particular bind, unlike other binds, when you apply this bind to a boss, you will not see how much damage you're actually doing until the bind is ending. So for the 10 seconds the bind is up, 100% of the damage will not be shown to you, and it will be dealt to the enemy immediately as the bind is done, unless you manage to defeat the boss in less than 10 seconds, and then boom, the boss will die and the skill will explode without the boss being there. But if the boss is still there and explodes, it deals 1000 damage to 12 enemies 8 times. Now these skills I put next to this one, which is the Endlessly Starving Beast, because these skills combo beautifully. You do the bind and then you put the beast on. Now the beast require you to hit the boss, and as we told, the restraint actually hit the boss for you. So because they combo so well, once you bind and then put the Starving Beast, you don't technically need to attack anymore, the beast will trigger. Now using this skill is actually very useful when training, because there are 2 ways to transform in Ark. Using the transformation skill, which is Master Corruption, as such, it has a cooldown of 3 seconds, and after 3 seconds you can detransform. Let's say you want to play it a little bit smarter. You can apply the bind for training as such. You bind a character, and then you can detransform with the transformation button because you didn't transform with it to begin with. So you can apply the buff and immediately go back to floor mode. And as you can see, the bind actually does damage to monsters over time, and when explode does a big explosion that hits enemies as well. And Starving Beast can be used for training as well. You can place the beast, go away, hit some monsters, because again the skill does require hitting some monsters, and once you hit enough, the skill is going to activate and do a lot of damage. And the final skill that you're going to use for your burst with those combo, for the most part, is going to be your Abyssal Recall. Now Abyssal Recall is your full map skill, which you can use. Press the button and watch the enemy scene of your friend and yourself going through some traumatic experience. As you nuke the map, and when the skill over, you have a couple more seconds of grace because you may die immediately, so they give you some extra iframe and extra time to use your Spectra Gauge without it being depleted. Now the final skill that you can use, which is somewhat slightly clunkier to use, is Endless Agony. Endless Agony is the skill you're gonna hold down and it's gonna hit enemies, and in the end of the skill, this animation that happens hits the enemy and actually heals you, which is really useful when you're tight on potion and need to do some damage real quick and heal at the same time. And your iframe is Creeping Terror. Now this is the second iframe that you're going to use more often because of the much shorter cooldown. This skill, unlike other iframe, can be held down, so for the time being, unless you are going up, and as long as you're underground, you're immune, and once you come up, you're not immune anymore, and you do some nice damage. Again, as you can see, the cooldown is even less than a minute, so it's very nice to use. And as we said, if you're actually prepping up the boss, you can do 1, 2, 3, use 4, and make sure all the buffs are applied. There you go, just making this skill apply as well. And then use your skill Charge Spell Amplifier, and this skill for this next 60 seconds gonna transfer those active buffs to your party, which means your party will do way more damage with all the buff that they're getting. The attack speed, the damage increase, boss damage and ignore defense, and the attack power and critical rate increase as well. Moving forward, the next skill we're going to talk about on my keyboard is Divine Wrath. Divine Wrath is the common skill that gives you damage plus 10% for 60 seconds, and if you are with another Flower class, the Flower class is going to get the 10% damage increase as well. And the final one is Infinity Spell. Infinity Spell plays off your Impending Death toggle skill. As you guys saw, maybe you noticed, I shoot bullets. As I kill monsters, the bullets are created, and you see those yellow bullets go ahead and target enemies. Once they target the enemy, they go ahead, fly out, and deal some damage. Those bullets can actually, if the color is blue, can sometimes pull enemies to you. But for the most part, they're yellow and gonna deal damage and gonna float around, wait for an enemy, and once they spot him, they will go to it. And if there's no enemy, as you saw, they're just gonna despawn immediately. If you're gonna change into Spectra mode, those bullets go black and gonna appear more frequently. And if you're using your skill Infinity Spell, they're gonna appear even more frequently and gonna hit even more enemies and the boss itself as well. So use it as part of your buff. Now the Ignition actually make the skill have way less of a cooldown for 2 minutes, and same for your Abyssal Recall. In the past, those skills did not manage to synchronize well with your burst, but now that they are 120% seconds, it's way easier to do your burst. Now the burst for Arc, as I said, contain using your floor mode to set up 1, 2, 3 skills with this combined as well. Transform, then transfer the skills to your party, 1, 2, 3, 4 to activate True Arachnoid for me, and page down to activate Terms and Condition. Bind the boss, activate Endlessly Starving Beast, do some animation cancelling, and which is, when doing Spectra mode, is basically using your main attacking skill Endlessly Nightmare with another skill to cancel the animation. Now what happens if you don't cancel the animation of these skills, you're gonna actually see the animation. You're gonna fly forward, upwards, into places. Now with bosses that are less lenient like Lotus, I wouldn't recommend doing this type of thing, because you may get killed if you're not consistent enough. The animation cancel can be done as well in Spectra mode, as you can see, and if you fail, as you just saw, you're gonna fly forward. But if you succeed, you're gonna see Battle Frenzy. Battle Frenzy basically stack couple of up to 3 times and give you some extra damage when performed correctly, up to 21% final damage, which is insanely good. Now, animation cancel, as I said, is dependent on the ping and dependent on how fast and consistent you're at it. So if the boss is really hard and may punish you severely, I recommend trying to avoid using it. But for optimal damage, animation cancelling is required. Now, as you saw, the skills actually transform once I went into Spectra mode. So, Scarlet Drive became Grievous Wound, which now recover HP and does 150% damage to 8 enemies and launches you horizontally. You have yourself Tenacious Instinct, which again, like the skill beforehand, does the same thing, allowing you for vertical movement. You have yourself Insatiable Hunger, which launches you upwards. It can hit platform above, and Unbred Chaos, which launches you forward and can hit a couple of platforms above as well. Now these skills, as you can see, can be animation cancelled and can be executed as such while training. So you can use those skills in conjunction again with a basic Charge Drive, which is the main skill in floor mode, and Ominous Vivid Nightmare, which active Endless Nightmare, which again can be stacked with the 5th job skill after a couple of seconds of cooldown, which is this one, the Devious Nightmare, to deal way more damage to a lot of enemies. So once transformed, you can actually use your basic Drive Charge. As you can see, the skill cannot be used in Spectra mode, and you can only use Endless Nightmare, so be aware of it. Once you transform, this skill become unusable. When you detransform, this skill become usable again. Now, we're gonna talk about the V matrix for a little bit. There are the perfect trios. Now, you need to have 3 trios, which end up being 5 trios altogether. Now, the one trio that you're gonna need is Basic Charge Drive, Ominous Nightmare, and Impending Death as one. The second one gonna be Abyssal Charge Drive, Gust Charge Drive, and Creeping Terror. And the last one gonna be Scarlet Charge with Unstoppable Impulse. And the third skill is not important what it is. It can be any skill regardless. Why you want these skills to be buffed? Because when they reach level 60, they gain final damage, ignore defense, and critical rate increase, which are really useful. So you want to get them as high as possible. As you can see again, monster defense ignore, bonuses, ignore defense, and ignore defense. And again, the same thing, ignore defense and final damage. Now, the thing is that a lot of people don't like the micromanaging of the class. These are the cons of the class. People don't like the fact that you're changing, that your Spectral mode is so much more powerful than your Floor mode, that you need to actively activate your skills and hit the boss on the monsters to truly see your range, which is always changing and adapting because, as you see, the skill that you actually move forward to other characters increases your damage when attacking enemies up to 5 stack and 3% per each stack. Which means if you attack the air, you can see in a moment the skill gonna appear over here. And once it does, it increases your damage. As you can see, my damage is now 56%, another stack appeared, 59%. And again, going up to 5 stacks, which means you're gonna see a lot of people just gonna do this around bosses before entering, because they want the buff to be applied immediately. As an Arc, you don't need to put a slot for it, but any other character, this is probably a skill you're gonna use as an end game skill. Now, I obviously have Roll of the Dice as one of my V Matrix skills because this skill is so powerful. It can give you 20% damage or 30% more XP. All the other effects are not so great, which basically means you gotta either set it to 5 or set it to 6 for more damage or more XP. You can technically set it to 4 for more crit range, but I wouldn't recommend it. For me, I just go and set it up to 5 for most part. And if I'm really into the grind, I can set it up to 6. Again, pirates have 3 holy symbol, which means I can do both of them at the same time to get an insane amount of XP. Obviously, this in Sharp Eye is really good. All jobs can have it, some crit rate and crit damage. And of course, this in Speed Infusion to increase your speed. The best inner ability gonna be passive skills +1, and the other 2 would be boss damage and attack buff if you can manage to get those into unique. Now, your main stat is STR, which means your Arcane Force gonna buff STR, all your equips gonna buff STR. You're a pirate, and you're gonna use Knuckle as your main weapon. The secondary is Abyssal Path. I'm using the Princess No One, and of course the Gold Abyssal Emblem, which is your emblem as an Arc. All the other equips are pretty general. You know, you have your Absolep for pirates, CRA for pirates, the boss accessories, Superior set, and some event rings to increase some drop rate. Overall, I think we went through everything that is important. An excessive spell, again, this is your attack and magic +4. This is sort of your Echo Hero for Arc. And you have your Floor and Hero Wheel, which again, this is your Hero Wheel, but just for Arc. And of course, I have my familiars on the keyboard. You can use, again, your Booster and Hero of the Floor. These are the only buffs you're going to use because your Booster isn't a passive like a lot of the other classes have nowadays. So the keyboard layout for me is as such. I like to keep my Bind and the Endlessly Starving Beast next to each other because these are the skills I'm going to use in conjunction most frequently. My Abyssal Recoil is slightly awkwardly positioned, but this is the position I like for it. The toggle skill obviously going to be on the 1, 2, 3 number pads because this is one skill. I press and forget about it. I like my burst to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then press page down for the floor for the link skill from Angelic Buster. So, would I recommend playing Arc? Yeah, I'm biased, this is my main, I love it, I like the micromanaging, I like the combo aspect, I like the fact that you even get to support your party, and with the reduced cooldowns of your burst skills nowadays, it's easier to do your burst and much more nice to execute. Overall, the only main thing that I don't enjoy in particular is the animation cancelling, because as you saw, it can be ever so slightly inconsistent. As you saw, I tried to cancel the drive over there to not fly upward, but I ended up flying upward, which again is very tedious and problematic when doing bosses like Lotus, when you fly away and you end up dying because you hit the beam and now you're dead. So, final words again. The class is amazing in my opinion. The micromanaging, you get used to it, and you have your transformation gauge and burst, which is one of the best bursts in the game. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you dislike it, leave a dislike. And if you really liked it, maybe consider subscribing. If you have any more questions, you're more than welcome to leaving them down below in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time.